If people don't click, they don't watch.
What Mr. Beast says here is very true. Think about it. You could create the best video you ever made, but if you don't get anyone to click on it, no one watches your video. Which means lower viewer satisfaction. Viewer satisfaction is how YouTube knows that this video is good enough to be pushed out to 1 million people. And that is why pro YouTubers spend as much time getting their thumbnail right as they do creating the video itself. How do you get someone to click on your thumbnail? What do these pro YouTubers do differently to us? Through hours of research, I came up with this formula to making great thumbnails. And I'm going to give you some actionable tips that apply to any kind of creator, beginner to expert, and in any kind of niche. I tried to pack as much value as I could into this video, so start taking some notes. Let me start with the most important tip, because without this, everything else falls apart. Take a look at these 3 thumbnails. These thumbnails all have 3 things in common that gain them millions of views. If your thumbnails aren't performing that great, it's most probably because you're not spending enough time working on them. You don't need to create like a work of art that is going to put the Mona Lisa to shame. No, you just need to focus on the concept or the idea of the thumbnail over the design.
A thumbnail to me is at least 80, maybe 90% the psychology of the click, and then maybe 10, 20% the actual design of the thumbnail.
This Mark Robert thumbnail could probably be cooked up in Photoshop in like a matter of minutes, but that is not the important thing here. The important thing is you gotta think about the psychology of the click. People don't think about this, but you're not aiming to hang this in an art gallery, you're aiming for the click. This thumbnail looks like a freeze frame taken from the video. There is action happening and you want to click and find out what's going to happen next. Is he going to be eaten by the shark? It's intriguing. The action leads to curiosity and that leads to a click. Or take this video for example. It's not going to win any design awards, but the thumbnail claims that you have been lied to and it promises to reveal the real reason why the dodo went extinct. These thumbnails create intrigue and curiosity, where the only way to find out answers is to click on the video. So remember to prioritize your thumbnail concept over the design and to think about what kind of emotional response that you want your viewer to have. And that's one surefire way to get a click. Because remember, not only does your thumbnail need to stand out amongst hundreds of other high quality videos, you also need to let people know exactly what your video is about in about 3 seconds or less. Think of it like a billboard in a highway. Not only do you need to have one that turns heads, but you also need to let drivers know exactly what your product is before they drive past it. But don't worry, it's nothing complicated. In fact, it's probably the easiest thing you could implement in your thumbnails to get better results. Now take these 2 videos of Ryan Trahan for example, because it's a masterclass of consistency and a great example for me to show you the 3 things that grabs a person's attention and how to tell exactly what your video is about as quick as possible. A great thumbnail should have no more than 3 primary focus points, and the reason for this is that it focuses the viewer's attention without overwhelming them. Following the rule of 3 elements gives your thumbnail a very clear focal point and path, capturing the viewer's eyes and basically guiding them. Telling them a story without overwhelming them. Keeping it sharp and keeping it simple and without giving your viewers too much to think about helps them to understand what the video is much faster. Number 2 is color theory, or using certain colors to convey certain messages. For example, red color can evoke a sense of urgency and negativity, or even energy and excitement. Yellow can represent happiness and excitement. You can find a lot of creators using yellow color on their thumbnail since it's a very attention grabbing color. Cool colors like blue could be associated with professionalism. Green can be associated with nature and the finance related things. And then you got your neutral colors like blacks and whites and grays, which is typically associated with like minimalism, cleanliness. But then also you could use colors to help you contrast and separate elements in your thumbnail. And this ties in with the rule of 3 elements, where you could separate the elements easily and help guide your viewers' eyes along a certain path. So for example, this video, it's simple. Orange against the black, it makes him stand out, and the text is easy and clear to read and understand. In this same thumbnail, we can see how well Ryan Trahan executed that. Take a look at this. Ryan is in the room alone, and the room looks serious and intimidating. 36 seconds in, and he looks like he's in serious pain. But despite the pain, the title says that he survived the world's loudest room. So how did he do it? What happened in there? You need to find out. And as a bonus tip, Ryan proves that this video can deliver exactly what you expected it to be by having the first 5 seconds of the video match what was in the thumbnail. And you'll notice here that he is not actually wearing an orange color suit, and that was deliberate. He used the orange color in the thumbnail because it stands out. Alright, now that you understand what a good thumbnail looks like, how do you validate your ideas? You could come up with a great thumbnail, but how do you know it's click-worthy? Well, for one, you can take inspiration from what has worked before. Remember the dodo? Well, that thumbnail concept was inspired by this thumbnail created by billboards for his video with about 158 million views. So you know for a fact that this thumbnail has worked before and it has the ability to get views. So here's a breakdown on some popular thumbnail formats that you could take inspiration from. And while I'm showing you these thumbnails, I want you to think back to what we learned in the beginning of the video and all these concepts that you now know. So number one is the social hack. Creators like Colin and Samir and Charisma on Command does this quite often. Having a famous figure front and center with some big bold words and a color like red and yellow to highlight them, it really grabs your attention. It's a great way to present some kind of rule or statement, or even create FOMO within the person looking at this thumbnail by having a famous figure next to it. Then there are thumbnails that have big numbers and reactions. This is true with a lot of financial related videos where you have these large numbers that are also not rounded off to make you not lose the sense of scale. It looks like a much larger number. So with the Mr. Beast thumbnails, you have a $1 option or the $10 million option. And this can be used to maintain a level of relatability where you might know what the $1 option look like, but do you really know what the $10 million option looks like? So presenting both of those in the thumbnail could help generate a little bit of curiosity. And then we got the still frame thumbnail style. It's one of my favorite because of how simple yet effective it is. These still frame style thumbnails are usually very aesthetically pleasing, and it looks like a still frame from the video. And these thumbnails showcase a snapshot of the action that's happening in the video. And it creates this feeling where you want to join in and find out what happens in these videos. But now, with all that being said, it is important to mention that you shouldn't be afraid to experiment. If you have a really good idea for a thumbnail concept and you can't find anything like it on the internet, don't be afraid to try it out. For example, this Discord thumbnail format that you've been seeing all over YouTube, well, that was originally made by Beluga. And before him, well, there was nothing like it ever done before. And it was very much a success. And this sparked this trend of many creators using this Discord thumbnail format. So don't be afraid to try things out that no one has ever done before. But also, don't copy. Okay, so there's a fine line between taking inspiration and straight up copying. Copying things might get you views in the short term, but it's not gonna last. There's an aspect of community building and brand that is pretty important to YouTube. And the best way to do that is to be original. You and the way you do things are the most original aspects to your content. So when you're using these strategies and ideas to make your own videos and thumbnails, get inspiration, take an idea, and put your own twist in it. Do everything the way you would want to do it. And that's pretty much the best way to be original. So now that you know how to make a great thumbnail, before hitting publish, there's one more thing you need to get right. And that's your title. Your title and thumbnail are two things that will always work hand in hand. So watch this video next where I go over how to make better titles to improve your video packaging tenfold. I'll see you guys there.